One of the best ways to simply catch more bass is realizing the potential of an area that you may have found and also learning how to maximize that area for all it's worth. And in today's video, I want to talk specifically about that. I want to talk about some tournament situations that I have faced, but even if you don't fish tournaments, I think this will help you to catch a lot more bass in your next outing. So stay tuned, it's gonna be a good one. This video is brought to you by sportsmansoutfitters.com. Right now at Sportsman's Outfitters, they are continually having different sales and discounts on a lot of your favorite fishing tackle. For example, the Berkley Stunna jerkbait is $11.99 on their website, where it's pretty much $14.99 or above anywhere else. The Z-Man Chatterbait Mini Max, my absolute favorite chatterbait this year, is only $5.49, again in comparison to $8.99 that it is anywhere else. So if you guys would like to help support the Bass Fishing HQ channel and save a lot of money, shop at Sportsman's Outfitters, click those links down below. In this video, there's not gonna be a ton of fancy editing. This is me speaking directly to you, whether you are a tournament fisherman or not, because I really believe that recognizing the potential of an area and then maximizing that area for all it's worth can really help you go from being a good angler to a great angler, or from a great angler to the best angler out there. And this is something that I have done really well in certain tournaments over the course of my life. And this is something that I've also failed on, and something that has costed me big time. And so whether you fish tournaments or not, I still think that this will help you to just maximize your areas and catch a lot more bass. But in this video, I am going to bring up some different stories that have happened to me in some tournament situations. And the first one was actually a tournament that I fished. This was a Bassmaster Open on Lake Champlain several years ago. And if you fish a lot of tournaments, especially out-of-state tournaments, you always want to give yourself a couple of days to prepare for that event, to try to go out and kind of figure out either a pattern or an area. And in this tournament, this was, I think, the second time I'd ever been up to Lake Champlain. And I love to smallmouth fish. That is what I really, really love to do. But in this pre-practice period, I was not able to find smallmouth, not the right size smallmouth, right? I could go out there and I could catch 2.5 pounders, some 3 pounders, but you really want to be able to catch 16 or 17 pounds worth of smallmouth. And I had fished for days for smallmouth without really finding something that I felt was really solid. We were kind of in this post-spawn funk for the smallmouth, which just kind of had them all over the place and not really grouped up. And even when you would catch them, they wouldn't be like big, chunky, thick Champlain smallmouth. They were kind of skinnier, and they just simply didn't weigh as much as they do at other parts of the year. So during one of the last days of practice in this event, I decided I was gonna target some largemouth and fish for largemouth. And I went all over the lake, and I had caught some largemouth here, caught some largemouth there, and I found a really unique area that was kind of a bigger bay. There was some floating docks in this area. There was a lot of milfoil grass. It all looked really, really good. And I got into this one little marina, and I was fishing a frog, as a lot of guys would when they see these cheese mats. And I had a fish blow up on the frog, 2.5, 3 pounder, caught it, bam. It was a decent fish. And then I skipped a little Cinco up by this dock that was in a hole, and I caught another fish. But when I caught that fish, the water at Lake Champlain is super clear. And when I caught this fish, I looked down and there was a lot of fish with this one bass. And it wasn't a huge bass, but there was a lot with them. I'm like, under this one little dock, there was like 12 fish that came out with this one bass. And I'm like, okay, there's some fish in this general area. Then I got another frog bite here, and it was another one kind of in that 2.5, 3 pound range. And I thought to myself, you know what, this is an area that I might be able to come and catch 15 pounds. Now, in a tournament on Lake Champlain, 15 pounds usually doesn't do a whole lot for you. So I kind of brushed the area off. But before I had gotten out of this area, this is what I mean by recognizing the potential. And I looked down when I was leaving this area, and I saw a 5 pounder just simply cruising. And in my mind, I should have thought to myself, okay, there are some bigger than average fish also in this general area. Not only was there a lot of life, but I should have recognized in that moment, okay, this area actually has a little bit more potential than I gave it credit for. And I had planned to fish in there, but I wasn't really excited. Again, because I want to win tournaments. And I knew I was going to need 17, 18, even 20 pounds on Lake Champlain to do that. And going to catch what I thought was maybe 15 pounds was just not going to cut it. So I bebopped around throughout the practice, and I found a somewhat okay smallmouth pattern where I could go out, and I was catching some 3.5 pounders every now and then. And I thought in my mind, this is my best way to catch 17 or 18 pounds. Okay, so the tournament rolls around, and first of all, I drew boat number 4 in this tournament, which I've never been that high in a Bassmaster Open. I drew boat number 4. I got to the boat ramp, and there was this humongous line. I totally messed things up. I should have left away earlier, and I didn't. There was a small ramp. The water was low. All this stuff was working. Anyways, I was boat number 4, but I didn't launch until like boat number 50. I'm literally like waving to Chris Bowes, the tournament director, like, hey, I'm boat 4, like as I went by. But anyways, I went out on this day, and this was the biggest thing here. It was a cloudy day. Okay, this is another thing where I should have realized that maybe smallmouth wasn't the way to go. And I'm not saying that guys didn't catch smallmouth on cloudy days in this particular tournament, but the pattern that I had found was fishing jerk baits on points, on grassy points. And you really wanted the sun to get those fish higher in the water column to eat that jerk bait. And I ran all over the place that day, and I was catching, you know, a fish here, a fish there, but it was nothing like it was during the practice period when it was sunny. And so at the very end of the day, I pulled into an area that I had never even fished, and it was a largemouth looking area. I picked up a frog and a jig. I lost a good one on a jig. I ended up filling out a limit on a frog, but they were all really, really small fish. And you may think, well, Tyler, why didn't you just run back to that one area that you said had a lot of fish in it? And the thing about Lake Champlain is it is a humongous lake. I was doing at 2 o'clock on this day, and I simply could not get back. Like, I couldn't run to that area and get back without just burning up hours and hours of time. And I had sat on like 2 fish for a long period of time during this day. So anyways, I wang in that day like 12 and a half pounds on Lake Champlain. Like, I was way down the leaderboard. Like, there was 170 boats in this tournament, and I think I was like 130th after the first day. Like, I was way down there. And so the second day, I kind of had a different perspective, right? And it wasn't going to be a much better day forecast-wise, but I thought to myself, you know what? I just want to go out there and have fun. It's very hard to make up ground on lakes like Lake Champlain. I want to go out there, I want to have fun. And so I'm thinking in my mind, I'm just going to go to that spot where all those largemouth will. I'll be able to catch a limit, and then I can go run smallmouth stuff the rest of the day. Well, I get in to my largemouth area, the one that had a lot of fish, the one that I should have realized the potential. And when I get there, I could immediately tell that I was not the first boat that was in there. There was one other boat that was in there, but there was blow up holes in these mats in a number of different areas where you could see that a fish had blew up on a frog and a guy had dragged that fish out. So in my mind, I'm thinking that a lot of guys had probably caught a lot of fish in this area the day before, because I got there and there was only the one boat there. So in my mind, I'm thinking, great, now I just got to this area and it's been absolutely destroyed by a lot of anglers. And it probably was. There was probably a lot of fish that were caught there during the first day. But me coming there the second day, I had a fresh mind, I had a fresh perspective. And so instead of picking up a frog, I went immediately to that dock where I'd caught that one on a Cinco. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna just pull out over here. I'm gonna pitch up against this dock, and hopefully maybe I can get a small limit, and then we'll go and upgrade. So I get to that dock, and within 20 minutes, I have a limit, but it's small, right? It's like 9 pounds. But then my co-angler, and I'm not gonna say that I'm mad at this guy because he was one of the nicest co-anglers that I've ever been, but I had worked into a slip and I was gonna come back out on the other side. Now, he was in the back of my boat and he was casting across where I was eventually going to go. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, he has the right to cast over there, but he's kind of getting to those fish before I'm able to get to them. And it's, you know, it's whatever, but he catches a 5-pounder off of this dock that I had just caught a small limit off behind me on the other side in an area that I was about to go to. So that, it didn't make me mad. It did make me see, okay, there's potential. And then I remembered that 5-pounder that I had saw earlier when I was in the practice. And so here I am thinking, you know what, I'm just gonna chill in here for a while. I'm gonna catch a lot of fish. I'm gonna have fun. And guess what? I kept upgrading. I caught a 3-pounder. Then I caught a 3.5-pounder. And then I saw a really big one. It blew up, it missed this is the one time I had picked up a frog pretty much that day. It blew up, it missed the frog. But again, I was thinking, okay, there's some potential here. And so I kept fishing that area and then I just expanded. I kind of went further down the bank. There was a couple of single docks and I pulled up to this one single dock, flipped in there with my Senko, bam, catch a 5-pounder. And now all of a sudden I work up to having like a 17-pound limit like I had wanted to. Not only did I catch this 5-pounder, I remembered another marina that was really, really similar to this one that I just drove by during the practice period. And I decided, you know what, I'm gonna hit that because I was fairly close to this area. I went in there, and guys, I've told this story on this channel before, but I lost a 6-pound largemouth in this tournament, in this dock that would have put me in the Bassmaster Elite Series. And it makes me want to cry every time I think about it. It was a heartbreaking thing, and if you've been around the channel, you've probably heard that. But it just goes to show you that when you start catching fish and you kind of get into a rhythm, you kind of expand, you kind of see things differently, and I was able to get those bites. Like I could have had a 20-pound bag if I had caught that 6-pounder that day in that tournament, and that would have been amazing. You know, it would have been awesome. It didn't happen, but that's besides the point. The big point is I should have realized the potential of that area when I saw just that one big fish that was just cruising. And this is the one thing that I have found in tournament fishing is that if you see one big fish in an area or you catch one big fish in an area, always go back and fish that area. It may have been a single big fish, but I have found so many times that one big fish will tell me the potential of an area. And I mean that. And I don't know if maybe you have had that same situation happen. I encourage you to comment down below, maybe in a tournament situation, but that one fish should have told me the potential of the area. Obviously I knew there was life there, but I should have known that there was big fish like capabilities in this particular event. But the other thing is that maximizing an area is something that can also help you to do really well in these events. And in my mind, even if I had fished that particular area the first day, I bet I could have gone through there with a frog, especially being boat number 4, and probably caught, I don't know, 15 pounds or so, 16 pounds, maybe even more. I don't really know, but I could have caught a decent bag just like whoever had done the day before, and then gone right back there the next day and picked up a different lure, a Senko, like I did, and really caught another big bag. Like that area that I had found, I didn't think was all that great, and I really believe that I could have got a top 20 in this tournament if I had just soaked in this area the whole time. And that's where I want to talk about just maximizing areas. And the big thing with maximizing areas is simply just switching up your lures a lot of times from time to time, and also coming from different angles. I think us as fishermen, we get really used to just kind of going in the same direction that we always do. Maybe it's like we cast better on this side of the boat, so we always like to go down the bank in this direction. And simply coming from the opposite way, you're going to see targets differently. You're going to make different casts, and that can literally double your fish bites. If you go down one bank, turn around, come right back down, you might catch, if you go down that bank the first time and catch 4 fish, you might spin around and come back down and catch another 4 fish just because you're at a different angle. And then all of a sudden you switch up your lure. You go from a topwater of some sort, now I'm gonna pick up that Cinco, or maybe I'm gonna pick up a square bill. And then you go back down and you catch what's there on the square bill. And then the last thing you should always do is make sure that you finesse that area. If you are ever stuck in a situation like I am out there on the water where you find an area that has fish, make sure you take advantage of what is there and maximize that area. And that is my approach that I always do now. Now I always do this is I will throw one lure, I will catch what's there, I'll throw a different lure, I will catch what's there, and then I will finesse that area. Because if you have an area that has potential and big bass, it is always better to catch those fish that are there as opposed to trying to drive around and find a new area. So that is kind of a big, long story, but I hope that it tells you how much you want to look at potential and maximizing these areas when you find them, no matter if you're a tournament fisherman or a recreational fisherman. So I hope to do kind of more videos in this realm. So if you guys enjoyed this video, leave a comment down below. And if you guys don't fish tournaments, but maybe you do want to start fishing tournaments, there are 5 lures that I think that you need to master. And I made a video right here where I talk about those 5 lures that will help you to do well in tournaments. So comment below, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video.